Welcome to Hope for Anxiety and OCD, episode 50. For episode 50, I promised to bring back on my favorite guest, my husband, Steve, so we can talk about our relationship ups and downs and life that happened in our first year of marriage. Welcome back, Steve.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You are my biggest fan and support, so I really appreciate you being here. We wanted to start off with a couple fun questions first. We got married and then we moved in together and we were adjusting to living life in the same household. What was the biggest surprise for you?
Well, I initially thought that it would be the dishes because you put your dishes in a different place than I'm used to, you know. The biggest adjustment was, you are a sheet stealer, a blanket taker. So we can be in the same bed trying to sleep, and somehow I find myself, or was finding myself, thinking, oh, my toes are cold. What happened to the nice sheet that I had on me? And so we had to resolve that. We have separate sheets now, which seems weird to say, but otherwise you just roll and roll and roll and roll, and suddenly you're all nice and toasty and I am frigid.
Yeah, somehow I'm like a burrito in the covers.
The human burrito.
And I am definitely a cover hog. I will admit that. So I would say for me, the biggest surprise was related to combining households, in that Steve actually has more shoes than I do. I know that women are usually the ones that are super fashionistas and have a lot of shoes and different styles and colors, but Steve likes to have a variety of shoes and a variety of clothes. And so it, as he's looking around the closet while we're recording. So that was a big surprise for me.
Yes. And what's bad about that is that I got rid of shoes. I still have more than you, even though I got rid of shoes, but I want new shoes. And I'm not a materialistic person. Probably my only thing is wanting more shoes.
Yeah, you're not big into stuff overall. What would you say was the biggest adjustment that you feel like you had to make when we got married?
Well, there are these two fur balls that like space, like the couch and the bed. And the couch I could get over, but the bed, yeah, that was difficult. I don't know that they wanted to give up that spot next to you.
Right.
So that probably, honestly, that was an adjustment for me. Was used to sleeping just me and not having to worry about something jumping on me in the middle of the night, you know, and the sound of a meow outside the door or whatever the case is. But just having my place on the bed, fighting for that place with a cat or two was a challenge.
But you made friends with Lilo and Stitch because you started feeding them shortly after you moved in, which was interesting. I was like, oh, okay, he's taken over this responsibility. And so now when it's dinner time, they don't look at me. They look at you. They know who brings the food.
That's right. That's right. And I like routine. So it just made sense. In the morning, I get up, I get them food. At night, before bed, I get them food. It was an easy transition.
Yeah.
And they're good. They're, for the most part, they are well behaved. They have their moments. They're good.
That's true. That's true. And one of the things that we did after we moved in together was we redecorated, because I had been living, in the house here with my roommate, and, just overall the house needed a fresh coat of paint, and the furniture was, thrift store stuff. It was pretty run down or old and just needed to freshen things up. So we were able to, that was one thing that we did this year, did some redecorating. This is funny in regards to the cats, because now we have these accent chairs in the living room. And it's like Stitch has his chair that he likes to sit in, and Lilo has her chair that she likes to sit in. They don't ever trade places, which is kind of funny to me. It's like, if we go out there into the living room, it's like Stitch will be in one chair and Lilo will be in the other chair. And I'm like, you guys are hilarious. Right. So they've come to sleeping in the chairs now instead of trying to get in the bed with us, because that way our foot doesn't, roll over on them or kick them or anything like that unintentionally. We had a very unexpected year health-wise. Kind of wanted to share a little bit about that on the podcast. And I got your full permission to talk about these things. And I said, you don't have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about. But I think everything that we've been through together and that you've been through has been really inspiring and has taught me a lot. I wanted to talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it actually started out with a Carrie health challenge in the spring. I went to a very routine exam with a OB GYN because we were talking about getting pregnant. And then she said, hey, there's this lump and you need to go get a mammogram and an ultrasound on that. And I thought, oh gosh, that sounds pretty serious and pretty scary. Just the timing of everything, we were about to lose our insurance for about a month. So I had to kind of like hurry and get this ultrasound before we lost the insurance. And I thought, I don't know if they're going to want to do follow-up testing or biopsy something. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. How is it all going to work out? What was that like for you while we were kind of waiting for me to get the testing and then the day of kind of waiting for me to contact you back?
That was scary because just not knowing, period. Not knowing, your mind can play so many tricks on you.
Absolutely.
Also, just hearing that, we're wanting children. We're just dealing with life. We're newly married. We're all those things. I just got a new job. The insurance just changed over and was about to. It hadn't even changed yet, like you said. And now I have this thought of, oh my gosh, forget all that. What about your health? Who wants to hear that?
Sure.
I don't want you to have to go through that. So I was a little bit scared.
And we both certainly have known people who have been younger and people who have gone through breast cancer. So it was like, oh gosh, that could be me. I don't know. I have to get this checked out. We got it checked out. It turned out to be nothing. It was fine. Got a clear bill of health there. Moved forward. And then as shortly after you started your job, you went for what was supposed to be a relatively routine eye exam. And you had been telling me, my eyes hurt. And I said, that's just not normal. You need to bring that up when you go in for your eye appointment. You want to kind of tell a little bit more about that story?
Sure. And I knew that for a long time I had sensitive eyes. So I didn't think as much of it. But yes, I had been having a lot of eye pain. I just kept telling you that I had these eye headaches. And so I go in for the routine checkup and they noticed a few things immediately. One, that I had been dragging my hand across the wall while I was walking. And I didn't even realize really that I was doing that. It was such a habit, such a normal thing. And also, bottom line, my vision was less than wonderful. We'll just say it that way. And so what seemed to be just regular eye checkup, nothing new, was, hey, you've lost a lot of vision in your right eye. There's a loss of blood flow. There's this, there's that. We have so many things to check out. And you may have had an eye stroke. We went through a lot of scenarios.
Yeah. In the beginning, we were told it could be all kinds of things. We were originally told that your blood vessels were constricted in your eyes. We were told you could have had an eye stroke, which caused the vision loss, which seems strange because it wasn't like you woke up one day and couldn't see as well from your perspective. Now, we knew that you had other eye issues. You've had some issues with peripheral and color blindness, but we didn't know that this was going on. Pretty much they were like, well, you could have a brain tumor that could be causing this. You could have a clogged artery that could be causing this. And we're just starting to think here, oh no, like what's going on? There was another kind of fluke test that came back and we thought maybe there was something wrong with your kidneys.
Yeah.
So for a short, like 2 weeks to about a month period, we were going, oh my gosh, are you going to die? Are you going to be okay? Like some of this stuff sounds pretty life threatening and we have to get a handle on it and figure it out.
And every time they would say something, it could be this, it could be that, your heart starts racing a little bit. Part of me just wanted to know what. You get to a point where you're like, just tell me, let's figure this out. And jumping ahead, we still don't really know fully, but it's always scary.
Right.
Just not knowing. The not knowing is the worst part. And I've heard people say that about different things, and that is so true. But we've got a great group of people around us through friends, family, of course, church, people who call us and tell us or text us and tell us, hey, we're praying for you daily. Someone told me their child was praying for me, which was really sweet. Just the different things, my good friend with cancer is praying. So it's just helpful to hear those things.
It's definitely an encouragement when you're going through something to have other people that care about you that are like lifting you up to God. So long story short, you got a bunch of testing done. You had MRIs, ultrasound of your neck. You had follow-ups with doctors. You had, visual testing. And then we got to this point where it was like you were going to have to see a specialist, a neurological ophthalmologist, and got an appointment at Vanderbilt. But then we had to wait 10 weeks for the appointment.
Yes.
It was a long wait.
It was.
Yeah. And there was a lot of times where you were having pain, and it was so hard for me because I couldn't really do anything about it. Like I couldn't make it better or take that away from you. And based on some of the other things that we had been told, I was so scared that you were going to lose more vision. I know there were times when we were going through that where I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd read, verses about trusting God, and I'd just cry, just say, God, you got to help him, get us to the right doctors and get us where we need to go, because it's just so sad and so painful.
And I think, honestly, that's the hardest part, is knowing that I said it was the not knowing, but seeing your spouse have to deal with it is worse, because that's not fair. That's not fair to them to have to wake up in the middle of the night. Well, it's not fair to you. Let me say this correctly. It's not fair to you to have to wake up in the middle of the night worrying about me. I know that's part of, we said for better or for worse, we did that in our vows, right? But yeah. I get it. It's still, I kind of get to the point where I'm like, whatever. But it's not fair for you, That's the hardest part.
You're also that kind of personality where you don't want anybody fussing over you or worrying about you, or you don't want to be bothering anybody or affecting them in that way. So this week was the week that we went to the neurological ophthalmologist. It was like nothing I've ever experienced, and I'm sure nothing like you've ever experienced.
No, I wouldn't recommend that for the family fun day. Definitely not.
Yeah, you're keeping your sense of humor about you. It's in essence that they had this long hallway with multiple waiting rooms. You meet with a resident first, and then they send you off to one of the waiting rooms and somebody will pull you for a test, and then you'll go to a different waiting room and be pulled for another test. You go back and you meet with the resident and the doctor, and then it was like, well, we need to do this other test. So we were literally up at Vanderbilt for 5 hours.
Yes. Yeah. And I will say this too. Vanderbilt did a great job. Yeah. They really did. Everyone there was so nice. And we could probably spend a whole episode just talking about all that they did, and I'll spare you. But it was probably the most difficult thing of it all was just, one, I was hungry. Even though we brought snack bars, you can't prepare yourself for that kind of stress in that many hours of it. And having an ultrasound on your eye, both eyes, that's an interesting thing. So that was stressful, but...
Yeah, I didn't even know that was possible, that was a thing.
I think that's fairly new, and it's a strange... All that goo in your eye is just... I'll leave it at that, because somebody's squirming right now, so I'll shut up. Yeah.
We get to the end of the appointment, and he says probably... I think one of the worst things that he could say, here we are bracing ourselves for, oh gosh, you've got a degenerative eye condition, you're going blind, you've got glaucoma, you've got this serious eye issue, and we're kind of bracing ourselves for something like that, like you need surgery. And he literally says, I have no explanation for this pain that you're experiencing. And I have a couple other hypotheses, but you're going to have to go elsewhere to get that treatment. You're going to have to go to a different specialist, because it's not actually eye related. Yeah. And that was rough.
That was rough. There was a moment we thought it could have been glaucoma, and that was difficult to hear. But at least in this case, you kind of want a label, or at least I did, because then you can prepare for it. But not knowing is, again, that's difficult. Not why. Why is this happening? Why do I not have vision in my right eye, or peripheral vision, or the pain, or whatever? And hearing also him say, well, it's just weird. Your eyes are weird.
Mm-hmm.
That just seems like a strange word to use for that. I'm glad that I get to be a weird anomaly, as he put it. That's not what I wanted to hear.
Right. It's hard for doctors when they're looking at your symptoms and they don't have a neat, clean category to put you into. It's like, okay, well, this piece looks like glaucoma, but this other piece over here does not look like it at all. And this piece right here looks like this, but this other piece, something doesn't quite fit with the diagnoses. And so we're trying a couple of different avenues. One, they gave you a different eyeglasses prescription that we're
Yep.
hoping will help a little bit because maybe your eyes were strained somewhat from having an incorrect prescription from a previous provider. You're going to be looking at some physical therapy on your neck head to address maybe a nerve that runs behind the eyes that could be upset or inflamed. So those are kind of our next steps. And we essentially got told, hey, come back in 4 months and we'll see you and see if anything's changed. So we're
Right.
back in January.
Yep. Which is difficult,
Yeah.
and it's so many people praying and they want an answer. And the best I can say is, I'll be back in 4 months and we have some other options.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
I know that I've had a lot of spiritual wrestling, I think, through this process. And I talked about that a little bit earlier because you can have faith and you can pray. And certainly people have prayed like over your eyes that your vision would be restored and that you wouldn't have any more pain. And sometimes it's really hard to sit with that of God has not fully answered that prayer yet. God has not
Sure.
healed you yet. What has your process been like around that?
I've said for me, total healing, of course, that would be great. If there's not total healing, let me just be who I'm supposed to be as a Christian with it. I don't want to be angry or bitter over something of that nature.
Yeah.
And it's funny because yesterday, I'll be honest, I was so angry. I really was because I wanted an answer. I wanted them to find something to say that, yes, you've lost vision in your right eye.
And here's why.
Yeah, and here's why. It would have been great. Here's why you have the pressure. But to sit down and ask me 3 or 4 times about the pressure with no answer is just, well, gosh, this isn't helping me at all. And no offense to the doctor because they're just doing their job.
Right.
But it's just hard to hear that. So then this morning I wake up and I do a group devotion that we've been doing, and it talks about just relying on God's grace and relying on sometimes God is there with you. I forgot how I worded it now. You feel it most in your worst times, or in your times of struggle or pain or whatever. And I thought, well, gosh, that's kind of now, I have to look at it and say, okay, you got this. I can't. This is out of my control, and I just have to deal with it. It's what it is. It's not a lack of believing or that, he could heal me anytime he wants. And yet I have this. And so that's the lot that I have. Let's roll with it. Let's do with what we have. I can't not be a Christian because my eyes are hurting. That's not an option. So
right. And you're still serving in church, the best that you can. Very involved there. That's another story, but we actually became the outreach directors, I guess in December of last year. So
which has been great. We get to meet so many neat and wonderful people. And so that's been a neat, it kind of takes my mind off things sometimes, it's something else to focus on. So that's good too.
I think it's hard when we're waiting on God for an answer or to move or for guidance. But I know that these really hard times also grow our character more than anything else. And I've learned so much from just watching you and how you've handled your vision issues, your pain that you've experienced. And it's really taught me a lot about humility. There are times where you have had to acknowledge to other people, these are my limitations. These are some things that I'm not able to do or I can't see right now. And that's hard to say because you're around a bunch of other people that can see okay.
Sure.
And maybe it's too dark in the room or it's too bright and you're having to say, yeah, I can't see that right now.
Sure. That's for me, I don't know if it's a pride thing, a guy thing, I don't know what it is, but I always want to be able to do what everybody else is doing.
Right.
You don't want to say, oh, I have this, and that's difficult, or when there's a group of people, like the guys that say, hey, we all want to go here tonight. Well, I can't go because I don't drive at night, so Carrie's already somewhere else. I'm just going to hang out here at the house because that's my safe space. I don't want to put anybody out and I don't want to drive. So yeah, there are so many instances that I could give where it's difficult in that sense, but it is what it is. And it's cool in a way though, because I am able to relate with a group of people that maybe others can't, so if there's an older person who doesn't see very well, I totally get that. Not because I'm old, although I'm getting older by the day here, but because I know what it's like to have cataracts. I know what it's like to not be able to see. It's difficult to give up the privileges of driving at night even. That was such a task. That's very difficult. So yeah.
Yeah, that's been a big one. There will be times where we'll be out and you can't see because it's too bright, too dark, something,
Right.
or your eyes are really bothering you that day. Something's going on. Sometimes you have double vision and things are kind of blurry, and you'll just like reach out and grab onto my shoulder or onto my purse or something like that and just hold on to me. I think that's a picture of our Christian life. Like it's dark. Like right now,
that's true.
Things are somewhat dark and we can't see, and we have to hold on to Jesus.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not easy because at that moment you're totally trusting me to take you where you need to go. I remember there was a time where we were at some fireworks for the 4th of July and we were trying to walk through this area and you said, I just can't, I can't say anything about where we're going right now. Just make sure I don't step in a pothole or something.
Right.
And sometimes the other thing you'll do is you'll watch my feet and where my feet are going, and that helps guide you. And we have this pattern of Jesus. Jesus has already walked on the earth, like he's already done all the things.
That's
and
true.
It's like if we will pattern our lives like after Jesus, it's hard. I think for me, I'm a doer. I'm a get it done. I'm an advocate. And so not having the control and really having to let go and say, okay, God, this is your department. You're going to take care of this. I want to fix it for Steve, but I can't. And you love Steve more than I do. And so I have to trust that you're going to do it. Like
sure.
You're going to, however this is going to happen. Obviously, like we pray that the God's glorified through this experience. And we pray that whatever happens, that we trust and know that he's going to use it for good somehow in your life, in my life, and in the lives of other people.
It's been, I don't know how to say it, but as we have grown as a couple, it's been such a blessing to see. I can brag on you for just a moment. You've scheduled my appointments for me. You advocate for me at a time when I don't know what to ask. You get to a point where you're just like, I don't even care anymore. You do, but that's how it feels sometimes. And I've even had where my parents, have said, oh my goodness, Carrie, thank you. Thank you. And it's true. I feel the same way that they do. It's such a blessing to have you there to help me there. Even just like the other night we went out with church and they decided to go to the family fun center or whatever that was. And it was a good time, but I couldn't bowl. We tried to play some video games and that was, I guess, that was good. But you had to kind of walk me around in some cases, and I didn't get to bowl. But I enjoyed watching you bowl and kind of, forgive me, but kick butt and take names. Because you're a pretty good bowler. I feel like you hustled a little bit, but it was good. It was good to watch. And so anyways, we have really learned. Some couples walk side by side, and we walk me behind you. And that's just the way it is. And that's how much trust I have in you and faith. And it's worked out really well. So thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just really been a joy to have you in my life. And I know a lot of people probably would look at it as a sacrifice. And I just don't feel that way because I feel like you've done so much for me as well. And that I know that if the shoe was on the other foot, if something had come back in that screen and I was going through cancer, like you would be doing all those things too. You would be going to the doctor's appointments with me. You would be taking notes and asking questions, or I know that if things were reversed, that you would be helping me out as well. And that's just, it's what you do, as a married couple. And some of you may have heard this who are listening that, marriage is not 50-50 because it just can't be. Because sometimes it's really has to be like 100% and 100%. But there are times where your spouse may only have 25% to give because they're sick, they're hurting, they're going through something. You have to help lift them up and provide that. You may have to provide that extra 75 that you need to stay strong as a couple. And it's just part of the deal. So we're going to switch on a happier note and say that I was tracking my calendar and trying to figure out when I was ovulating, trying to get all the stars aligned, because that's what us control freak people do, right? And I had bought some ovulation test strips, so forth, and then this stuff started happening with your eyes. And I put the ovulation strips under the sink, and I said, I can't do this right now. That was the month that we got pregnant.
That's right. The moment you stop worrying about it and trying to control it is when God's like, and now go.
Yeah. So at this recording, we're 13 weeks along. Yeah. And so when this comes out, we'll be a little bit farther than that.
Yeah.
But we're super excited and just feel so blessed. Like this is our shining light in the midst of a hard time is that God has blessed us with a child. We're entering the old parents club.
Right.
And so we didn't know like if this was going to happen or be possible. And I think just knowing everything that I've been through in regards to losing my foster children and everything that you went through in a long period of singleness, just coming to this point, we were able to say like, okay, this is really a gift. Like God has given us a gift, and everything I've been learning and reading about trust, I think has helped me in terms of the pregnancy. Just say, okay, if God has given us this gift, then I'm not going to worry about the baby or what's happening, because there are so many worries that you can have in pregnancy and wondering, is everything going to be okay and all of that. And I've kind of slowed all of that down and been able to say like, okay, this is from God. We're going to be okay.
Yeah. And it's been kind of fun, kind of interesting. I've learned so much. One day I'll come home and, hey, the baby's the size of a raisin. Well, isn't that nice? Such a big baby. And then the next thing you know, it's the size of a kumquat. Oh, what the heck is a kumquat? Wait a minute. I have to figure this out. How big is that? And then the next thing I know, hey, we're the size of a lime. And by the way, today the baby has fingerprints. And I'm like, fingerprints? That's amazing. So it's been a fun little,
journey.
She tracks it. And the things I learn and this is our baby. And oh, dear God, I hope this baby doesn't look like me. I hope this baby looks like Carrie.
I think they are going to at least starting out looking like you, because they're not going to have a lot of hair.
They're going to have more of the hair than me, I bet you. Anyways, either way, so many people also, I'll say this, so many people ask me and us, do you want a boy or a girl? And maybe it's because I'm older. I don't know, but I'm like, my answer every single time is, I just want a baby.
Right.
I just want a child. That's what I want. Boy, girl, whatever. I just want a child, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so, we're like, we'll be happy with either one. We're good.
And I think the joy of seeing our parents' faces.
Yeah.
Or, like I know that my mom was so excited. So I'm sure Mom will be listening to this and amen that one. But she was very excited, to hear, as was your mom and both of our dads. So it's, that's neat. They are excited to get another grandchild.
Yeah, we had some fun with our families for sure. We got them little onesies with their grandparent names. And obviously, because we're having children later, we've had siblings that have had children. So it's not the first grandchild by any means, but still they're very excited for us because they know everything that we've been through and they knew that we were wanting to have a child. So, so here we are, big steps. And I guess I just want to say in relationship to that, I don't know what things are going to look like for the podcast in the future. I've struggled because my first trimester has been pretty rough. There's been a lot of sickness and a lot of tiredness. I think I'm coming out of it at this point, which feels really, really good. I'm feeling a lot more energy and less nausea, but I know that there's going to have to be some time off and focus on family and different things. So we're going to do the best that we can and obviously kind of evaluate over the next year what the podcast is going to look like, but also, what the continuation of it is going to be. In January, I'm planning to release episodes every other week instead of every week. You have episodes to catch up on that will give you time to go back and listen to some of our older episodes. But I'm always looking for ways to expand and let other people know about the podcast. I've been a guest on different podcasts to kind of get the word out. And we're at a place where I really want to continue. I'm enjoying it. I love the interviews that I've been able to do. But obviously, there's definitely question marks about what is that going to look like with a baby and childcare and so forth and so on, and time, timing wise to do things. And we may just have to get better about working ahead and figuring out what that looks like. I also want to make sure that I'm being wise financially and investing resources the way that God would want me to. My goal for this next year is to have the podcast be fully funding itself. We don't have ads, we don't have sponsors, but what we do have is a buy me a coffee opportunity where you can give money to the podcast. And I am hoping very soon, I keep dragging my feet on it, but maybe by the time this episode comes out, I really want to create a subscription service where people feel like they're getting value every month. They're not just donating money, but they're actually getting some relaxation audios. They're getting question and answer time with me once a month. They're getting maybe some workbook pages. That I really want that to be of value to people. And hopefully we will be able to get enough subscribers that the podcast will be funding itself in a year. That's the goal. And what I'm shooting for. God is good, and he's definitely provided the opportunity for us to be able to do this so far. So I'm trusting him with whatever the future is. And if I need to put it down for a season and pick it up again, or if I need to let it go, I just have to be open to whatever God wants me to do. I guess I just want to end on hope, obviously, because that's how we like to end our show. And I feel like the hope for me is obviously that we're having a child. The hope is that you're going to be able to see them and see them grow up. I'm hopeful that God is going to just protect you and protect your vision so that you won't lose further vision, and that God will relieve you of this pain. And we haven't seen it yet, but we will definitely, keep you guys up to date.
Absolutely. And I think, I hope that you can do this for a long time because I know that you enjoy what you do, and I'm biased, but I think you're fantastic at it. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's been such a blessing from the day we got married, even before that, but from the day we got married till now. And I'm excited for what the future brings and for what great things you get to do with this platform as well.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story, I think, and being so open and vulnerable. I think it helps people because there are people going through their anxiety right now or their OCD, and they're wondering some of the same questions like we have, like, why isn't God healing me? Or why do I go to these doctors and I can't get help? Or maybe they try medication and it's not working. I think it's whenever you have a chronic condition like anxiety or OCD, it's a process really to get that help. I'm reading a book right now, which I really love, and I won't spoil it because I want to have the author on, but he talks about how we are co-workers with Christ in our healing process and journey. And he's talking specifically about anxiety, how God does his part and we do our part. And that, gives me hope that God knows, obviously, our limitations. God knows that we can only do so much on our part, and we need that. We need him. We need to rely on him, and we need that divine intervention. As always, I hope this podcast really just encourages somebody today to keep going. And if nothing else, to know, you're not alone, in your struggles.
Yeah.
So
there's always someone who cares about you.
Yeah.
There is.
Even if you don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Or even if you feel isolated.
Sure. And if maybe you're like me and you don't want to bother anybody, this is my 2 cents for what it's worth. I'm no Carrie. Don't get me wrong here, but you're not a bother. Somebody loves you. Somebody wants to see you better. They love you. They don't want your problem to hold you back. Be a bother. be a smile and get better,
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone who tuned in today. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us at www.hopeforanxietyandocd.com. Hope for Anxiety and OCD is a production of By the Well Counseling in Smyrna, Tennessee. Our original music is by Brandon Mangrum. Until next time, may you be comforted by God's great love for you.